Hello, everyone, and I want to welcome you to another episode of the Better the Pond Pondcast, the Flying V edition, where we talk to incredible people who are creating impact and ripples on the pond. My name is Warren Berry, and I'm your host and the founder of Instinctive Solutions, where we believe that everyone is an odd duck, but that is what makes them awesome. Today, my guest is Chris McCarron. Chris is a podcaster, coach, speaker, mentor, and author. She's the queen bee of Beehive working community in Tyngsborough, Massachusetts, a home improvement contractor, a real estate guru. Plus, she's not afraid of getting in there and getting her hands dirty. When Chris turned 50, it was a very dark time for her, and one visit to her 100-year-old aunt completely shifted her mindset. Now she gets to help women in their second half of their life finding passion and success. Chris always finds the good in people and is an amazing contributor in the community and betters the pond by just being herself. Thank you for being you, Chris. Ladies and gentlemen, Chris McCarron. All right, Christine McCarron, all the way from, is it Tyngsborough, Massachusetts? Is that correct?
Yes.
All the way, hailing from
All
Tyngsborough,
the way.
Massachusetts.
What a ride it was.
And I'm so happy to have you here as a guest on my podcast, and we'll have to give a little shout out right out of the gate to our good friend Justin Breens. We'll make sure that he gets a shout out, who is, I think, probably the world's best connector. I think, would you agree with
Definitely up
that?
there. He's amazing.
He is. And so he brought us together and we had a little bit of a chat prior. And, one of the things, Christine, that when I first talked to you, you were so kind, so relatable, you have great energy, and you're just a wonderful human being. And I thought, here's somebody I really want to have as a guest to be able to talk about what you're doing to better the pond.
Thank you so much, Warren. I'm blushing now.
I only say because it's true. So you're a podcaster. You have your own podcast. You're a speaker. You're a coach. You're a mentor. The queen bee of Beehive working community, and your book is the Empower Your Inner Millionaire.
Yes.
So
yes, and yes.
What don't you do?
I don't. What don't I do? I'm really bad at finishing things. I'm great at starting things, but the finishing is always the challenging part for me. So I like to hire people to clean up my messes.
I love it. I am the same. So here we go. Same energy. You also do home improvement contracting as well, and real estate. Man, I tell you, the list goes on and on and on. So anyway, I think this is going to be an absolutely amazing conversation.
No doubt.
Yes. So, Christine, so tell us a little bit about, what you do. Tell us about your company, and of course, the list is long of all the things you do. But tell us just a little bit about, the company, the work that you do, and what you're doing to make a difference out there.
Thank you. There are lots of different hats, but a lot of them come down to real estate. I love real estate. I love buying it. I love fixing it up. I love helping other people to do that, to, help them like envision what a house could look like when it's finished, and, help them to see, even if they're not going to eventually fix it up and make a mess of it the way I do, that they at least could see some potential of how, people sometimes walk in. I've actually had people say, oh, I don't like the paint color. And you're like, seriously, dude, that is so fixable, and some people, they just can't necessarily see and imagine what something would be like with sometimes just a really simple change. So I love that. That gets onto my creative side. And my book is about that, about real estate investing. And even my co-working space is essentially a commercial real estate investment. Like, how do I bought a place that was undervalued, underutilized, and bringing it up to its full potential. And in doing so, have added a lot of value to the property. And, in the meantime, I needed an office anyway, so I created this cool co-working space. But the most recent thing that I'm doing that I'm extremely excited about, and it's all sort of has to do with something that we didn't talk about, which is the fact that I just turned 60. And that is just been so surprising to me, because when I was young, not that I turned 60, that was easy, but what I imagined 60 would look like versus what my life right now actually does look like and how I feel and like how energized I am and excited. And to share that with other people who are thinking, especially women. I primarily work with women because they are often giving up some of their original dreams, right? To raise a family, to be more accessible, to maybe do a job that pays really well so they can send the kids to college, but it doesn't light them up. And then they get to a certain age and the kids are gone and they, the finances are fine. And they're just like, wow, too bad. I'm so old now and I can't do what I really wanted to do. Or, I'm just going to like dial it in until retirement and I can just whatever, play golf every day or something, right? Just helping them to reconnect and reimagine what this second half, right? The exciting, beautiful second half of life can be.
So a couple questions for you with that. I think it's really fascinating. So, looking back to when you were a kid, what did you see back then about being 60 compared to what you see now?
So the very early years, I always believed, and this is really weird, not too many people know this actually. I always thought I would die before I was 21.
Oh,
I had no plans for the future because I just couldn't imagine myself beyond that age. And I just thought, okay, that's it. So, but then once I did, right, who did I have for role models, right? Parents, grandparents, people who were 60, who were gray haired and not that healthy and kind of, a little feeble and needing help getting out of a chair. And right. I mean, this is what my imagination was. And there are certainly people in that situation, but
mhm.
I don't feel that way at all, right? I feel at least as healthy as I've ever been. I feel energized and excited to get out of bed every day. Ching, ching, right? So it's just, as you can tell, I'm not doing a lot of slowing down in my
I know,
old
no, you're
age.
old age. You're actually you're speeding up. So you're defying the laws of age, shall we say?
Aging in reverse.
um, and what was it that really got you excited about this turning 60, but helping others, do what you do? Like, what was the spark? Was there a defining moment that you recognized that there was something here that you had really special to offer?
It hasn't been, even when I was 50, I heard people saying things, but when I was 50, that's a whole nother story. I was not in a great place at that age. And
Mhm.
so during this last 10 years, getting myself into a great place and seeing the difference and then meeting other people who are like, oh, I'm too old to go back to school, I'm too old to reconnect with this dream and stuff, and now like just wanting to blow that idea right out of the water and with as many people as humanly possible because of just what I went through, right? How I felt like at 50, like, oh my God, I just completely wasted my life and now I'm so old and blah, 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 right? And you're just like, get a grip,
But isn't it interesting, just on that note, of how something really as simple as just changing your mindset? It's just
But
a
it's not
mindset.
simple at all, right? Changing your mindset is the secret to everything. That's the key to, I feel like, any kind of success or failure by that same token.
Yeah. What I mean, whether you think you can or you think you can't, you'll always be
Right.
right. Right.
Exactly. And
All
it's
right.
true.
So so let's jump into the questions here. So Christine, what got you from being a gosling? Now I'm talking about your right, your very beginnings. I know that you were born at a very young age. So what got you being a gosling from being, where were you born and where did it all start to leaving the nest? So now leaving the nest is when you went out on your own. So either you were kicked out, either gently or not, or you decided to leave to where you are today. So Christine McCarron, what is your backstory?
I was born in Merrimack, Massachusetts. And when I was 5, we moved to Kingston, New Hampshire, two very, I guess you could say boring, or maybe not boring, maybe like bedroom communities, not a lot going on. And I feel like I was born to be a city person. I love the energy. I love everything about the city. And my parents love the burbs, right? So that we always had that, like, why are you going out every night? And why do you want to do all this stuff? And why can't you stay home with us and watch, Wheel of Fortune or whatever? And that was never my thing. So I actually moved out at 17, couldn't wait to get out of the house and moved into my own apartment and, got some friends together and just was so anxious to get the heck out of the house, and then just, kept moving closer and closer to Boston, which is the closest city to where I was. And then eventually moved to London, and just wanted to be in that energizing, fun, exciting environment. And
So, okay, we gotta break this down here a little bit. This is fascinating. So let's just go back. So what did your mom and dad do? What did they do for careers?
when I was growing up, my dad was a bricklayer and my mom was a stay-at-home mom.
Hmm. So very solid foundational. And then here you were. Now, did you have any siblings?
I had one sister.
One
She's
sister.
5 years younger than I am.
And is she anything like you?
No.
No.
And she has actually said to me that like her favorite vacation is like staying home and sitting on the porch.
So she enjoys the staycation. You're out seeing what the world has to offer. So you were the odd duck.
Oh boy, was I ever. Am
So
I adopted?
so now going back to when you were a kid, were you kind of always that odd duck as well? Were you always the one that was the dreamer, the chasing after whatever came into your mind, and rambunctious and energized, and you were just that bouncy?
Yeah, I did all kinds of crazy things. Two friends and I in high school, they changed the course. So when I was a kid, we had double sessions. So high school went in the morning and the middle school went in the afternoon, because we didn't have a school that was big enough. But then they expanded the day, they made another school. And so we suddenly had more periods in the classroom. So we used to have like 5, now we had 7. So I'm like, well, we don't need any more classes to graduate. So we wanted to just have an extra, free period. And they were like, no, you can't do that. So we made up a class and then we signed up for it. Because in those days, all you did was the classes you wanted, you went to the instructor and you said, I want to sign up for your class. And they just initial it. And then you'd have your card that said what you were signed up for. So we just made up a class. We initialed it that we were taking it. And the 3 of us took the class. And unfortunately, one of us got detention and she couldn't remember which was her actual free period and which was this made up class. So that, the gig was up at that point. But, stuff like that. There was a lot of that going on all around.
You made up your own class. That is funny. What was your first job?
My first job after like babysitting and stuff was I worked I'm trying to remember. I worked at King's department store. I think that was my first job.
And what were you doing there?
Cashier. And then I got like promoted to the service desk. And yeah, it was very, very exciting stuff.
So when you said you lived on your own, so you left when you were 17. So you went out to chase the world.
Yeah.
And had you finished grade 12 at that point, or were you still in school?
Yeah. Well, my birthday was in July, so I just made it. So when I graduated, I was 17, and that's basically when I moved out.
So now, what did your parents think about you just off you go at 17?
They probably I know my mom worried a lot about me and, just bit a lot of fingernails over it. But there might have also been a little bit of relief.
Were you Christine, were you a troublemaker?
In a good way.
In a good way.
I never got arrested yet, but
always pushing the limits.
Yeah.
And somehow I see that you still are. Funny how it doesn't change. So now you decided 17 years old, a couple of friends, and off you went. So you went off to Boston. Is that did I hear you?
No, actually the first thing we moved to Salem, New Hampshire, which is a small city, but one step closer to my dream. But it's expensive to live in Boston. And at that time we just had not that great jobs. So
And so going back into that, so to bring me up to speed here, so you went, off 17 years old, off you go, see the world. And then where did you go from there? Like what sort of, give me the timeline from that point on to where you are today.
Oh, wow. So I'm 60, right? This is going to take some time here.
Well, just give me the glossy overview. You're good at that.
Okay. So I had a series of not very exciting jobs, and then I just lucked into this company as a project manager and it was a software company. And I picked things up pretty quickly. So I was getting promoted to different jobs. And in the end, I was called a subject matter expert. And I took an assignment in London for a couple of years, and being the subject matter expert for Europe, Middle East, and Africa. So that really was great for my traveling bug. And I got to see some super places and have a good time.
Wow.
And then when it was time for me to, my 2 years was up, and the company didn't want to do expats anymore, and they had changed a lot. And each time I would go back, there was a lot of unrest and people were just really bitchy. And I said, I just do not really want to go back to this company. And I'm saying, what am I going to do, to my neighbor in London? And she said, you can't see yourself as anything more than what you are right now because you're in the middle of this thing. So why don't you just quit your job and just think about what you want to do next? And I was like, okay. So that's what I did. I quit my job, went back home, lived with my parents again.
Oh, he went back to the nest.
And I thought, so I ended up through a series of misadventures, I ended up starting an import company because of my love of traveling and shopping, and did that for about 8 years. I imported stuff from Morocco and Egypt, and and then at the end of that, when I was sort of deciding that wasn't necessarily as exciting as I thought it was going to be. And I got back into real estate, which I had always been interested in, but had never actually worked as a real estate professional. And so I started that, and I guess the rest is history, because from there I started doing real estate investing again and getting excited about helping other people to invest.
What was it about real estate that got you excited? I mean, you're obviously passionate about it. Where do you feel that passion came from?
Yeah, it's interesting because I've always been interested in real estate. I don't know how I got to decide that was the easiest or the most, for me, comprehensive path to wealth. But also my dad was a bricklayer. So I think I got an appreciation for beautiful buildings and beautiful artisan work and things like that. I actually, when I was young, worked as a journey person for him. I was like mixing the cement and stuff like that for him for a while. So I got to see like firsthand how you create something beautiful. And I always enjoyed that aspect of it. Like once in my life, I bought a place that was already finished, and I just, I just couldn't enjoy it. I just was like, I always have had to go in, rip the walls down, bring it to the studs, start from scratch, do everything. It's a sickness, I think, actually. I don't like living in, squalor, or I don't like making a mess and, breathing plaster dust all the time, but I just can't like the house unless I put my personal blood and sweat and tears into it.
So with that, were you literally like deconstructing like yourself? You were in the thick of it. You were tearing down walls, you were drywalling, you were all those things.
Yeah. And with limited success, like some things I can do better than others. The demo, I'm super at demo. And even the in-between stuff, but the finished work, I don't have the patience for. You need to bring people in for that piece of it.
So that'd be the not having the need to finish things.
Right. There's that theme again. You're absolutely right.
Good. I bet you just loved, drywalling, like mudding and taping, because that's so much fun.
I've done it, but it's hard when you can't do something as well as you want to, and you don't know what you need to do to make it better. I know this looks like crap, but I don't know how to fix it. That's frustrating for anybody, I think. So
yeah, it was interesting, through COVID, when I tried working from home for about 2 months, and I thought I was going to lose it. That is not my jam. So on a Friday night, I came in, brought my tools in, ripped down walls, and totally redesigned my office and created a whole new space. And that's what I needed to make it my, to make it my own and make it fresh and new, and to give myself just a whole different environment. So I get you.
Awesome. We're kindred spirits.
We are kindred spirits, you and I. I love building stuff. So, so when you got into, you said you got into real estate, so that was obviously a passion. Then, and then building and getting into remodeling homes, and then basically when you got into the co-work space, that was all part of that as well. So again, found real estate that was undervalued. Again, put your spin on it, and then gave a space for others to enjoy.
Exactly.
Well, look at you. You're just bringing everything together. And I bet you 100 to 1. I haven't seen your space, but I'm assuming that it is very bright and colorful.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It is, but not only that. So I feng shuied the office, right? So there are offices that are purple, there are offices that are magenta, yellow, blue, gray. They're just all over the color spectrum. Not to everyone's taste, but I feel that by that we're self-selecting and only the coolest people will want to be here. But
I
it's
love
very
it.
bright and beautiful.
Yeah. Just like you.
Thank you.
Just like you. It's your personal spin. I got before I move on to the next question, I do have just one more question for you is looking back, what was the greatest lesson that your mother taught you?
That's so interesting. I think she taught me to ask for help, which was something I did not want to do ever. And one of the ways she did that was when I was married and things weren't going very well. She said that one of the reasons was because I never asked him to open jars for me. But if you extrapolate that to life in general, right? People want to feel important. They want to feel like you appreciate some talents and skills that they have. You can't just, as a kid, I had a big chip on my shoulder and I wanted to do everything better than everybody else and no one else could help me. And that turns out to be the recipe for failure, I think. Now, now I think that.
But do you think though that independence was your driver and your motivator?
Yeah.
So maybe it's two sides of the same coin.
Yeah, but you can be, as it turns out now, as a more wise person, I can see that you can be independent and still allow other people to be worthwhile, worthy and fantastic, and you can appreciate them for what they can offer without diminishing yourself, which I think, especially as a woman, I think that was not a lesson that I understood right away.
Interesting. I was talking to my daughter yesterday and we were talking about giving and receiving. And I said, we always want to give, right? Giving feels good. And giving is really, it's self-serving when you actually break it down, right? It is. But why do we have such a hard time receiving? And I guess that's not asking for help or people offering to help. But no, I'm fine. And the way that I see it is that if we stop that, we stop the energy, right? To me, it's all flow. And so if we actually hold back and say, no, I'm fine, and don't receive, we actually stop the flow.
Absolutely right.
And I think sometimes we get in our own way. So it's also a lesson in life about learning how to receive and just keep the energy moving. All right. So asking for help was from your mom. What was the biggest lesson that your dad taught you?
My dad was blessed or cursed with 2 girls, and I think he was a real manly man. I think he would have loved to have a son, but he never he never made me feel like I couldn't do something because I was a girl, right? We repaired my car together. I told you he helped me help him on his job sites. He respected me and just, he didn't make gender an issue. And it wasn't until I got out into the world later that I realized that some women had a big, had an issue with being a woman. Oh, women can't do that. I had a friend who couldn't change who refused to change her own windshield wipers. And I was just like, this is so ridiculous. You don't need to have a boyfriend to change your windshield wiper, like stuff like that. And that independence, it went along with that. But I think you can be independent, but still feel like there are things you can't do. And thanks to my dad, I didn't feel that way.
And so, yeah, it's interesting. I had some people on my podcast and it was with a company called She Built This City, and it is all about getting women into the trades.
Yep.
And one of the things that I talk about, and of course I do a lot of work with human instincts, and there's one thing that we measure, and it's called implementer. And implementer is how people handle space and tangibles. So, and there's no bias. So there's no relativity between being male or female or age or any of those things. That some people are drawn towards fixing and building, and they need to be in the tangible world. That's just how they make sense of the world. And it's, and when, if I see sort of women like yourself, which obviously is very obvious that you enjoy those kind of things. Now, my question to you is, were you ever called a tomboy growing up?
Not really. I don't remember ever being called a tomboy.
Oh,
And I don't think I really was. I mean, I've never been a girly girl, you know what I mean? But I also wasn't particularly like, I didn't have like short hair, and I wasn't really a rough and tumble kind of person, but I've been called bossy.
well, the reason I bring this up, and I think it's really important, is that there is no such thing as a tomboy.
Right.
There's no such thing. They don't exist. It's a label that society sort of placed on a girl who wants to, go out and build stuff, or help her dad bricklaying or mixing cement or whatever the case may be. And it has nothing to do with it. So, and that's just a talent that to me, it's just your God-given talent that you bring into the world. And I'm really happy that your dad allowed you to let that shine.
Yeah, me too.
So I have 6 older sisters, and then there was me. So my dad had to deal with 6 girls, but then got the boys.
Kept trying.
I always say my dad was a truck driver, and I said, well, apparently absence makes the heart grow fonder.
Yes, so.
All right. So, okay. So here's the next question for you. What is the greatest thing, good or bad, that's ruffled your feathers? And how did you respond to it?
I think turning 50 ruffled my feathers.
Oh,
It was a bad day. It was a bad time for me.
are you willing to share?
Sure. Yeah, I mean, like I said, when I would turn 50, I was like, I feel like not at my best as a human being, meaning that I just was living way far below my potential. I was living in a house with 5 other people, with a person who can only be described as an entrepreneur, right? There were 2 couples, 2 singles. Well, I was one of the singles, and living in this 4-bedroom house. It was actually a 2-family house. So we had a 3-bedroom, and then a 4-bedroom over. Really smart guy, probably 25 years old. And that was the age of most of the people in the house. And there I was, like, the age of everyone's mother, sharing a kitchen with 5 other people at that age, it was just ridiculous. And I wasn't, I was doing rentals, I was in real estate, but I was doing rentals, and I had crappy credit. I mean, I had just really just not done a good job with myself. And I was just like, oh my God, I'm 50. How did I get to be 50? I'm still living like a college student here with this ridiculous situation. And I felt, really, really bad, really bad. And I allowed myself to feel really bad for a couple of weeks. And then I got invited to my aunt's 100th birthday party.
Mm.
And I looked at her and I thought, holy crap. I mean, she was, unfortunately, we lost her 5 years ago, but she was 105 at that point. I think she just died of boredom because she was, she painted until she was 103. You know what I mean? Like that. She was an amazing person, very smart, never lost a bit of her brains, living alone right up until the end. Just a really amazing woman. And when I saw her and I just realized like who she was, and I thought, oh my gosh, she's 100. Like, bam, I have 50 more years. And then I just started to like fast track it. Like, all right, you've got to learn, you got to get out of the slump, and, just re-energizing myself and lighting that fuse that was just sputtering, I just.
So did your aunt sort of teach you anything or say anything to you that shifted your thinking, or was it driven internally where you just witnessed and had an aha?
Yeah. Yeah, I walked in and they've got, a tiara on her that says 100th birthday. She's got, a sash, she's got a tiara. She's sitting there at the table, and everybody that comes in, she knew everybody's name. So my dad's one of 10, right? So there's gazillion. I couldn't pick half of them out of a lineup. You know what I mean? No, she knows all their names, all their birthdays, their anniversaries, whose belongs to who, the whole thing. And I just thought, you know what I mean? Like if you can't think what 60 look like, imagine what 100 looks like, right? You think 100, you're dead. You're dead for 20 years already, and just seeing her. And I thought, oh, okay, you had your dress rehearsal. Now it's time to get serious.
Isn't that fascinating that, that she was that age, of course, and remembering, who's who and birthdays and all those other, I have a hard time remembering my own birthday nowhere.
No kidding. Exactly. Do I know you? Are we related?
All right. So did you know that geese, as part of the Pondcast, right? Geese fly 71% further and faster when flying in the V formation. What do you think the secret is to getting a team to fly in the V formation? When, from your perspective, you built a team, you built a company. Wait, what do you think the secret is to actually having a team really aligned together?
There are several, but one I think is being very honest about who you are and what you're not good at, right? Because I might not be attracted to a person. Like if say somebody who's really great at numbers and, who's going to keep me really honest and on track, that person, I might not like them. You know what I mean? Like I might think, oh my God, why are they hassling me about numbers all the time? Right. But you need that person. And because, I'm not going to watch the numbers, I'm going to do the spending and someone else has to do the reeling in. Right. Being honest about what you're good at and what you're missing, I think is a big part. But the other is allowing people to become their best, allowing them to grow and evolve. And also with using your goose metaphor, that everybody's flying in the same direction. You've got a clear goal. That was the first thing we did yesterday with my new hires. We sat down and I said, this is my big goal. This is what we're getting at. This is one big financial goal. So I said to them, do you think we need some interim goals in order to make sure that we're on track for this? And they were like, yes, absolutely. And we sat down and we came up with 5 goals that we all bought into, that we all agree with, right? And so we're all going in the same direction and allowing, right? And even the geese, right? It's not always the one goose in the lead, right? They change that off so that you've got everybody is taking a turn to show their strength and to be the leader in that situation, whatever that might come up. And that was hard for me, right? To let somebody else is going to take the stage, somebody else is going to be the star and be in charge. But once you do it, it's just fantastic.
Isn't it amazing when you get to the point where you can lead from behind?
Yeah.
And, and going back to your comments saying when you were younger of being, bossy and probably a little bit obstinate and not asking for help, right, would make you the lead goose and want to stay there. But you realize it doesn't take too long to realize that that's called burnout.
Yeah.
And so, by allowing people to play to their strengths, right? And I believe that, finding out what's right with people, not what's wrong with them, finding what's right with them and then position them accordingly. Yeah. And that's exactly it. The lead goose, right, never stays the lead goose. They're always changing out. And remembering that when geese don't honk to complain, they honk to motivate. So it sounds like you're probably a great motivator for your team as well. And giving everyone a voice.
Yeah. It's so important.
Yeah. Fantastic. So now what are you doing right now, Christine, to better the pond? What ripples are you creating and how are you inspiring others to do the same? How are you making the world a better place?
There are lots of things I love to do. And we are just actually right now, one of the things that we're talking about with the new hires is that we're going to start donating money every month. And the members here will get to choose for that month who is going to get the money, what organization is going to get the money. I mean, I donate both money and time back to the community because to me, community is what it's all about. And the arts, I love the arts. So I have ongoing donations to the arts and also like I said, I'm always donating my time whenever asked for all kinds of community events and things like that. I mean, it might be something simple like Saturday. There was what they call the party by the bridge, right? It's a big town fair. And I was parking cars for 4 hours, just like helping out at the parking lot. I mean, that's nothing, right? But you can't run an event like that without volunteers. So no matter what small part I was playing, it was helpful to allow this great, party slash fair to happen.
So when you look at, it's interesting, seeing, that everyone's going to be able to choose where this goes. What's your process in doing that? Because you're gonna have one person who's going to say, well, I want it to go here. And the next person say, well, I'd rather go here. And so how are you managing to do that internally?
I think what we're going to do, like I said, I asked them to come up with some different ways that we could do it. I think it could be just as simple as just putting your favorite charity into a fishbowl, or we might have, and that's what I think we'll do, like on a monthly basis. But then after that, we'll have like an annual giving, and then we'll have people to write up like here's like a little form. This is why I think that this particular group should have, a larger amount than we're going to give every month. So a small amount every month, and then at the end of the year, there'll be a big amount, and that will be a little bit more of a process. And at some point, I mean, we're just getting started, so the money is not a huge amount right now. But at some point, we'll probably allow different organizations to send in their own, even if nobody nominates them, to send in their own requests. Like, okay, this is why, my little local theater group would, love to have the money this year, and this is what we're going to do with it, type of thing. So, I think it'd be I want it to be simple for the monthly one because I want people to participate. So probably just thrown in a goldfish bowl, but then, like I said, a more official process for the annual giving.
And so what would be the one thing that would be the closest and nearest and dearest to your heart? What kind of organization would you want to help?
My personal giving is all around like what you call the liberal arts, right? I give money to the library. I give money to all kinds of different theater groups, and there's like an indie theater that I give money to. So I just feel like that's our kind of personality. That's our community, and that's how one of the ways that we all can get together and be together. Better. I'd rather see people at a movie theater than watching an indie film than sitting home on Netflix, right? Because it just allows you to be part of something. So that's my thing. I mean, I know there are lots of wonderful organizations out there, but for me, my everyday life, it's always the arts of some type.
That's so interesting to listen to you about what you're doing to better the pond. And if you think of it, is you talk about community arts, library, and what I hear you say is it's all about bringing things together. It's all about like bigger community of combining and contributing and helping and all those things. And and funny enough, you created a co-work space.
Yeah, isn't that funny? What a coincidence.
and there you are at the hub. So you are the center of the universe.
My little universe, anyway.
But it's interesting. It's interesting to connect the dots, right? And I know it's going back into your point of saying, the biggest lesson you learned from your mom was about asking for help, and it seems like you've taken that and just made it so much bigger because you're just taking that and helping so many others.
Thank you.
It's fascinating.
I'd be happy to hear that.
Yeah. That's playing out. That's what you're doing. So Christine, what's one lesson that you have learned along your 60 years on planet Earth, that you would share with an entrepreneur starting a business today?
There are a lot, but I know we don't have all day, so I'll one thing that's been very powerful for me is not just like starting with the end in mind, but starting with the very end in mind, right? To actually sit down, write your obituary and say, who do I have to be today in order to be remembered as that type of person? So like for mine, you can imagine that I've given, in my obituary says that I've given millions of dollars to the arts in my community. Well, how is that going to happen, right? I have to be somebody today. I have to start today, right?
Mhm.
I can't say, oh, I'll wait until I'm making $10 million a year and then I'll give money to charity, right? People, it's very easy to put off, learning and doing and giving. But if when you really think about what do I want? I want to be known as a wonderful father, right? You could say that. I want my kids to say what a great dad I was. Well, you can't ignore them all, for 50 years and then expect to be right to have somebody say that about you. So,
Mhm.
just think about what's really important to me. And it forces you to be intentional and prioritize your time, which is so easy to just fritter away with a lot of,
Mhm.
nothing tasks.
Yeah, absolutely. That's I mean that is sage advice. I mean, I believe that, being the end of mind. I mean, I've never had anybody, now I have done this, but I've never had anybody else mention about writing your own obituary. And it does seem, in a way, kind of seem a little bit morbid. But it is an interesting exercise to do, to look way down the end and say, yeah, what have I accomplished? And then, and then find your starting point. So that is you're the first to ever mention that, and that is wonderful, fantastic, and you were the sage goose on the pond,
Right? Oh,
and
awesome. Thank
wise.
you.
And I've one last question for you, Christine.
Sure.
Is, if you were standing on the top of a mountain and the whole world was intently listening to you, what would you say?
Oh, no pressure, right?
No pressure. You said you could make stuff up.
It would be something like, you know, like love each other, like something really crazy and very trite like that. Like find the good in this person, right? There is good in everyone. Just find the good and look, like you said before, look for the good instead of looking for the faults, right? Figure out why is this person in my life? And, to quote, Tony Robbins and whoever said it before him, like everything is happening for you, not to you. You just need to figure out why and how that's the case.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, that is, again, goes back to mindset, right? It's just changing your mindset. So everything is happening for you, not to you.
Exactly.
And you know what? You and I are absolute kindred spirits.
We are. It's
This is
awesome.
this is crazy. We'll think the same way. All right. So I really, Christy, want to thank you for your time today. I want to thank you for your stories. I want to thank you for everything that you do to better the pond. You were just an amazing and wonderful human being. And
Aw,
I am
thank you
honored.
so much.
I am
I thank
honored.
you for allowing me to be on here. It's been fantastic. I love talking to you.
Yeah, I love talking to you, and I'm honored that you're here. And so, I mean that sincerely.
Me too. Hey,
So if people want to find you, right, and get in touch with you, find your book and all the wonderful things that you're doing, where do they go to find you?
rather than listing like 45 places, because when you have a lot of hats, you have a lot of websites. I actually interviewed somebody for my podcast one time, and he said, my wife put me on a 12-step program for URLs, for domain names. I said, if I had a wife, she'd do the same thing. But yeah, so just chrismccarron.com is the easiest. And from there, with a little work, you can get everywhere.
Okay, so chrismccarron.com. We'll put that in the show notes so that people
Thank you.
can go there, and then they can follow you around. And I know you're on LinkedIn. We know that we're now connected on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
And yeah, we'll make sure that people that can reach out to you and about your book and all the wonderful things that you're doing.
Thank you. Thank you. That'd be fantastic. Appreciate your work.
Absolutely. And again, one more shout out to Justin Breen from the Brepic Network for making this connection. So if it wasn't for him, we wouldn't be having this conversation, most likely.
Absolutely. And he is epic.
And he is epic. So you get two shout outs. So there you have it, folks. It was a great time here today on the Better the Pond podcast with Chris McCarron. And this is Warren Barry, and I'm flocking off to take you beyond the pond to better the pond, because we're better together. Thank you so much, Chris.
Oh, thank you.